6:30. This is the June 9th, 2021 meeting of the North Bennington Prudential Committee via Zoom. And first order of business is public comments, which I don't see anybody for that. So Mary's not here though, is she?
No, I don't see her.
Okay, so the next item is finance. We can do one of these items, and if Mary's shows up, we'll go back to it. That's item D, which was to authorize an advance for the EMP work to the contractor, Roy Terry. That work will commence after the completion of the roof replacement and after the roof drains, the gutters are taken off the roof because they would impede the work. At any rate, last year we, at his request, because he has a big expense in terms of running the lift, to give him a 50% advance, which is higher than maybe we usually would, but that worked fine with him last year, and I have no qualms about it this year either. So I'd like to authorize that, and then since it won't happen until July, that will give me the authority. I have the authority anyway, but at least it's the board supporting me in terms of asking for that advance in order to get Mr. Terry started on his work. So I guess I need a motion from somebody.
So moved.
Matthew moves it.
And I'll second it.
Kim seconds it. Let's tidy up here. I forgot to mention the amount. The contract amount is for $14,500. So we're talking about $7,250 as an advance. Yeah, so that should be in the resolution wording there, that we're authorizing an advance of $7,250 prior to at the commencement of the work for Roy Terry in order to cover his outstanding expenses on the lift and get started on the work. Okay. Any further discussion? Hi, Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Is that everybody? Kim, did you say something? I didn't see you.
No, I said aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, and Kieran, I didn't hear you, but you said aye?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I'm gonna wait and see if Mary shows up. I didn't hear anything about her not being here.
I just sent her a message, Ray.
Okay, thank you. Consent agenda is the next item, and that consists of a warrant, which is basically a warrant to pay Mary Rogers, the treasurer and delinquent tax collector, the balance of her salary for the year. And that is included in your packet from online from the supervisory union. That's the only item on the warrant, because there are other items that will have to be dealt with later in the month. Payments for the payment on the 2011 bond issue, and happens very early in July, so it has to be we have to authorize that at the end of the month. for Mary to take care of. And then there's some other items. We're talking with the village school right now about building expenses that it's our responsibility to pay for, and figuring out what that is this year. And that will get paid, reimbursed to the village school, and at the toward the end of the month when we have that meeting. I don't think that's basically what would be in the warrants, because we don't have tuition payments in June at all. We're just cleaning up the business year for the auditors and making sure we get this bond payment in time, in a timely manner. So, and the other item is, of course, the minutes from last month's meeting. So I'll move all those things that we approve them. I need a second. And any
I will
questions?
second it. It's Kim.
Any discussion or questions about these? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we have two policies. One's a warning, one's an adoption. Kiernan, would you like to do the discussion here, such as it is, and propose these, make a proposal that we, a resolution that we accept, or warn them?
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull up the policy information. They haven't emailed that out yet. I haven't seen it, and I'm trying to find it online.
Look at the meeting warning. You should be able to get to the documents through the agenda heading there. Click for packet.
Not that easy.
No.
Not that easy.
No,
Well,
it's
then
not.
I'll do it just because I've got it right here. There's policy number 4035, conflict of interest in hiring. We're asked to warn this. If you look at it online, they're basically, this has got some changes in language that are highlighted in yellow in the policy. And it states that the districts want to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest in hiring practices. And
I know when we were discussing it, we were talking about conflict of, say since Arlington and Sunderland are coming to be part of this, if somebody was under the agreement of somebody was their boss was their relative,
yes,
would they be essentially reassigned? Would they be kind of grandfathered in, or something along those lines? So it was kind of a gray area, and we had it ended up being like a 30 or 45-minute discussion on it.
right.
I don't think it ever really got resolved.
Well, there seems to be some resolution here, at least a proposed
I think
resolution.
I think there's just some questions that were kind of left unanswered, but the rewriting of it was completed.
Okay, so I'm going to read the specific paragraph here. To promote effective and principled hiring practices, that's a new addition, I think. The board does not condone nor approve the hiring of anyone in a position where the person hired will be supervised or evaluated by a family member. That's unchanged language, except for does not. If a conflict of interest in hiring and or supervision appears to exist, the superintendent or their designee shall determine if alternative supervision of the employee can be accomplished without disruption to the administrative functions of the office of superintendent or of the district. There should be an of in front of district there grammatically, I think. If alternative supervision is not feasible, the board may grant a waiver in individual circumstances. So that, we're just warning this, and so that's just a heads up to look at that language if we go ahead and warn it, which I think we will. At least I'm going to propose we warn it. If I get a second, and we'll
I'll
just
second that right now.
All right. Any further discussion? We can have a discussion next time if anyone chooses, has something to say about this in particular. It sounds like the policy committee has a lot to say about it from what Kieran says.
Yeah, it was, because this last policy committee included the Arlington group,
Yes.
majority of them. So that's why there's a lot of unresolved or unanswered questions from that aspect, and they had to bring it back to their board and so on and so forth. So I'm waiting to hear if we're going to have another meeting before September. Leon said we usually reconvene in September, so I don't know what's going to happen at this point.
It's
Right.
it's unlikely that the policy committee will meet until September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this is going to be warned, and then other boards ours and others can contribute to it or wait for Arlington to come up with whatever language they would like to see in it, I suppose, if they want changes. Shall we warn it? I'll call the question. Are we in favor of warning it? I'm in favor of warning it. So,
I'll second that.
Yes. So third, yep.
and Kieran.
Yeah.
Okay. So move on to the next policy, which is an adoption of the policy 5030 on attendance. It's basically virtually unchanged except the addition of a sentence highlighted in yellow again. Perfect attendance will be recognized annually at each school. But that's taken out and moved to administrative regulations. That's what's going to happen with this policy. So administrative regulations are going to say that we'll honor perfect attendance at each school. But the policy will just be talking about the mechanics of keeping boards informed a minimum of twice a year of attendance rates at the schools under their purview. So I'll propose that we adopt it.
I'll second.
Second from Kieran. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's policies. We're at the superintendent's report. Is he still, he's still here?
Still here, yeah. I'm in dual meetings tonight, so I'll do this. And not much to say that our students were done Monday. Thankfully, because of the ability to be remote on snow days, we were able to keep them out of the buildings during most of the heat of this week. And surprisingly, attendance was pretty good on Monday. I assumed coming back for one day, we may see a drop off combined with the heat, but much better than we thought. We're being told, unfortunately, that remote from the state that remote snow days is not an option available to us next school year. And I hope that that's not the final answer. And the agency of education will listen to the superintendents. To me, it makes, yeah, we did lose some students, in remote learning, but as any teacher could tell you, what type of performance do you get from a student when you're making up days late in June and on a hot day in an unair conditioned classroom versus what we got out of them remotely in January. So
Yeah.
I'm still advocating that we can do that, but as of right now, we can't. And we're also being told that families will not have the option next year to partake of local education remotely. That's the option that some parents had this year. I mean, Mount Anthony Union High School, I think we're still at 27% of families that are still 100% remote and have not returned to school. They will not have that option next year unless they enroll in the Vermont Virtual Learning Academy. We won't be able to do that local option. So that may shift some people. And as long as we're hearing that you probably saw it too, the Vermont School Board Association put out a warning that once the governor releases all the emergency acts, we'll be going back to in-person meetings. But under Vermont statute, board members can still participate remotely as long as there is a physical location published and open to the public, and that there is at least one person present to conduct the meeting. Everyone else could attend remotely. Our last day for staff is Friday. Past 2 days, and I'll continue tomorrow. Assistant Superintendent and I are doing a listening tour in all the buildings, walking around to the village as much as we can, and then we're doing a restorative circle at each building with some question prompts to get feedback about the experience that our staff has gone through during the past 14 months. And we have office staff, support staff, paraprofessionals, and teachers taking part in those circles. And then I will share that information that I gathered. I'm gathering central office administrators next week for a summit where we will start to look, what went right during this process, and what have we learned from it, and what do we want to keep from what we've learned. I've heard a lot of things, like the ability of some board members to attend by Zoom because it's more convenient, or have childcare issues, or you're still at work and caught in drive time. That's a why wouldn't it work? Why wouldn't we still allow that to happen? One of the things I'm hearing, it's like you've seen the yard signs out and banners downtown for graduates from Mount Anthony. Like, why did it take a pandemic to do that? Why don't we celebrate those students in their graduation in that manner every year? So when I hear something like that, I said, why not? So we're hearing about, particularly when we were in the A-B schedule, because then it was a smaller group, the connections that teachers and staff made with the small group students, and then also getting reports of far fewer behavior issues during this year than what we've seen in the past. What do I attribute that to? I don't know. We'll look at it. We'll look at the data, but it could be that students are just thrilled to be physically back in the building, or because the small connectiveness, that the small group connectivity that the teachers made with them just resulted in less behavior issues in our school. So that was some encouraging. But as I do these tours, I see a lot of wariness on people's faces who are just really, Mary's coming in right now, really looking to be able to take a break. And a good thing about, even though our summer recovery program begins in July, staff who are going to work this for us this summer will be able to get at least a brief break between now and when that starts. And from what I see, it's needed. So we did finish negotiations with the teachers union last week. We reached a tentative agreement with them. Tonight we are in negotiations with the support staff. I'll be going back there shortly. I hope that we can reach a settlement with them this evening, but we still have a ways to go. Teachers are meeting by Friday to ratify that, and then I'll be bringing it to board meetings for approval. It's a 3-year contract, which I'm pleased with, because we've been doing a series of 1-year contracts mainly because of the changes in health insurance, the state health insurance, and not knowing what's going to happen with that. So we kept the contract short so we could renegotiate every time, but that takes a toll on everyone too. So, and we're going to try and go back to staggered contracts because in negotiations, we always did the same ending time. So, 3-year
Make it
contract with
easier.
teachers. We're going to try and do a 2-year with the
Yeah,
support staff. So it's staggered and we're not doing the
Yeah.
overlapping negotiations like we've been doing for the past 3 years. So.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I'm glad that we're getting to the end. But we still have a lot of challenges ahead of us. So.
Yeah.
Any questions that I can answer for you?
so yard signs, I've noticed them when I take the dog out because I walk up or down hillside or both on a walk. So I've seen the 2 Bosong boys and also one of the Stedman children across the road. You know, they're right next to each other across the street. And someone else lower on that hillside there. Very, very nice. It's nice to put their faces out there and acknowledge what they've accomplished. Yep, I'd say that's something you could keep for sure. Anyone else have any comments about or questions about? I think the snow days thing. Why can't you do that? Why can't you have a remote day for a snow day? It seems to me like it would make a lot of sense. And instead of having this dance at the end of the year about whether we're going,
Absolutely.
how long we're going to be open, or
And I don't know what the reason behind that is, Ray. I'm thinking that maybe there's some public perception that remote learning was a failure, which I disagree with. I mean, certainly we lost some students who fell through the crack, but you know, the reports I'm hearing as I do these tours with teachers that they felt, particularly with literacy at certain grade levels, that, you know, the reading was improved by the online, being online just required more of it. And I don't agree with that national thought that we fell behind. If everybody went through this same thing, and if you were here and they were there, that gap still existed that was there before because everyone went through the same. I mean, that's an average. Sure, there were some kids that didn't do as well, but there are kids who did even better. We're planning for a long-term recovery. We're not going to recover just in this summer. And we're also going to do recovery during the next school year. So I'm always concerned, but I'm not overly concerned about that. But I think that politically there is, you know, and I have no insider knowledge on this, but the discussion and belief that, you know, remote was a failure and kids were lost, we can never do it again. What hurt is it went on too long. We are actually doing it, I think, very well as it went on because of the, you know, of what we learned and shifted as we went through it. I think it's wrong now, for the reason I say right up front. What happens in a schoolroom late in June versus in the heat versus remotely in January, I just think the remote January is far more productive. So I hope that the state will change their mind on that. But it won't count as a day right now if we're remote.
okay. All right. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
I think it's not a bad idea. It may be more difficult on math learning. I'm not sure about that though.
Yeah.
That depends on actual experience.
I mean, a compromise on that, Ray, might be to then designate that we can do a couple of days or 3, no more than 3 remote snow days or something. And then we could monitor it and have to submit information on what was attendance that day and, you know, how much of it was asynchronous versus synchronous. and then make a decision whether it could go further. I can understand not giving carte blanche, you can have 20 remote snow days,
Right.
I agree with that, but then try it then as a pilot for the limit. So,
Yeah, well, it's tied to a physical condition, weather and road conditions.
yeah.
And 20 is an unlikely number, certainly down in this part of the state. All right, well, good luck with that. All right, no one else wants to say anything, ask a question? Okay. I'd like to go back to the finance report and let Mary do her part of this.
Good evening, Mary.
Good evening.
Mary, glad to have you here.
Yes.
So if you have anything to say about the treasurer's report or arrangements for the line of credit for the early part of next fiscal year or
Yes.
for the payment of the bond.
Yes, okay. So first of all, the final budget, I want to make sure that I have, is it $3,025,000? $3,025,901?
I'm sorry, you got me. I don't have
Okay.
I don't have it in
How,
front of me.
where do I find the exact final budget?
You should look in the annual report for this year for that we had put out for March.
Well,
Okay. I have the spreadsheet to complete for the line of credit. I expect to have that submitted by Monday.
Okay.
What will be a rub this year is the bank folks have told me that they are requiring a 2020 audit for the village of North Bennington. That audit may be completed by the end of this month, but I'm not certain it is. That is our auditor's plan to have it done by the end of June. Now,
You're requiring that for the school?
yes, because the village is required to submit a different audit because of the federal monies that were on the big grant for the water
Yeah.
line improvements. And since we're the village is the entity collecting the taxes, I guess that's why, but that there is a federal audit required for that. And so they said that I can still submit the application, but they may not be able to approve the amount until that audit is obtained and sent to them, which means that we may not have funds available to us until later in July, rather than earlier in July, which is not a problem, but it may require that the village school either takes part of their tuition payment or a delayed tuition payment. This is still,
We can probably take a delayed tuition payment if need be,
Yeah.
Mary.
so we can work that out. The other thing is I just today got the loan statement for our interest. I don't believe that as of today, Peoples has the federal part of this interest payment. And remember that over the last couple of years, they either do or don't, and then it comes in later.
They usually don't. They usually pay it later. The
Yeah.
interest back. Yeah.
It used to be that it would always be there. They would
Yeah.
actually get it even
Right.
before the rest of it was due. So I will get this to Jim tomorrow so he can pay it, but that's the full 23,000 that will that we'll be responsible for.
Right,
And it is due on the 1st of July.
right.
I won't be here. So actually I will be here. I'm leaving right after that. So I'll be able to actually get that check and take it to the bank. So we'll be able to make that payment.
You're able to make that locally,
I can take it right in and make it locally.
and that's
Now-
the interest payment.
And we also do a check where we do the interest and the principal.
Right.
So I can get that done. Now,
And
we
that's
also,
like the 3rd of July or 2nd of July. Is that
it's
what-
due the 1st of July. And because the 1st of July is on a Friday, I can get it there
Okay,
and do it right exactly then. What we don't want to do is have a check mailed like we did last year, and
No.
they actually cashed it
right,
early,
right,
if you remember. So,
right. Because it puts us, it drives the auditors
Right.
on our part.
the other option.
Excuse
is
me,
to
Mary.
not-
I'm sorry to interrupt, and I don't know that this really matters, but the 1st of July is Thursday, not Friday.
Oh, Thursday, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
I knew it wasn't a weekend.
It's actually
there's-
better, Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The other option is to have it done via a ACH transfer. And all I need to do is call and give them the authorization.
right.
I'm not sure that the business office likes doing it that way, but I can talk to Jim and see if he has any strong preference one way or the other.
Right.
Mary, what
Okay.
was you were looking for the total balance, the total budget
Yes.
number? From an email from January 21, I don't know if this is the final spreadsheet, but it looks like 3,025,901.
Yeah, that's the spreadsheet that I saved, and I just wanted to confirm that that was the same one, but I'll verify in the annual report.
Okay.
Okay. So that was really my concern. And then the other thing is, we'll have another check to deposit that Lori and I can get together, and we can have get together with the village trustees because I have some more delinquent taxes collected.
Okay,
I picked up one check the other day, and I'm picking up another check tomorrow. And so we'll have a bit more to get it in and counted in this year.
okay.
And as far as I know, the other thing that's very important before I can finish this tax borrowing request is whether there are any other expenses that are coming in this year. Did you saw Jim's email that he's doing the check run? What did he say, on the 23rd or so, 21st?
Right. And
So
there
what
will-
else is going to be in there?
Well, basically, it's a reimbursement of the village school for building expenses they paid for that are the landlords, which is
Okay,
the district. And we're working that out, what it is, and we'll submit a bill by the 15th to Jim, so that check gets, the warrant gets produced and a check gets prepared for you to sign.
okay, then I'm going to
Okay.
have to hold off until the 15th or 16th to
Yes,
submit,
right.
to
And
submit this.
there's also a small reimbursement check to me because I paid for some minor expenses, and then one thing, mostly copying or duplicating at Staples to
Okay.
avoid
I just,
running out of ink here at home. And well, actually, they were things that had to be done there because of the size, because some of them were copying plans. But also, I took the slides that John Traver had taken prior to renovation 1996 and after renovation in early 1997 or in 97, later 97, which show the before and after state of the school, which are important to remember, I feel like. And so, but they're on slides. So Tim helped us show them once on one annual meeting, but now they're on thumb drives. Tim has one of them. I have one of them. And I had those transferred over and it cost us about $75.
And I approved those today with Jim. He
Okay.
sent me an email just for
Yep.
secondary approval. Yep.
Thank you.
So everything, Ray,
Those are
that's,
the last expenses that I know of.
so Ray, the other thing is I need to make sure that I can know what is left in the balance of the repair budget line so that I
And
can
once
transfer.
we have this done, you will know that. And
Okay.
then you can have the transfer the rest into the
Yes,
deposit part of that.
good. And I just need, I'll know that by, as long as that's done by, the end of the month, that's good too.
It will be done
Good.
before the end of the month
Okay, perfect,
because the 15th is what Jim wanted
Yeah.
as a deadline. And
perfect.
I think there's nothing to prevent that from
Okay.
happening. Okay.
All right, good.
Is there anything we need to authorize for you?
Not at this point. What I will do is, as soon as I can, I will send out to the board what I am sending to People's Bank for requests for borrowing.
Yeah.
It will just be what it is, but certainly the committee should know what is being submitted.
Yes.
And that way you'll have a chance to look at any questions. So if I can send that out late on the 15th, then I'll
Yes.
plan to send everything to Peoples on the 16th.
I
Just take,
think, I don't know if we need to have another meeting if we are clear about what's going to be paid out.
Yeah.
Even if the amount is not entirely clear at the moment, it will be by the 15th. And I could sign that warrant if I mean, I'm authorized to do that anyway, but maybe we could just have a resolution of the board that that supports your taking care of the payment on the bond and the interest and the principal on the bond, and applying for the letter of credit and for the payment of the building expenses that we owe the village school. So I think we should just have that for the record. I don't think we always do that. We often have a second meeting this month, but I think we could avoid it if we just authorize it now and we plug in the amounts when they're known.
mhm.
So how shall we word it? The Prudential Committee I don't know how we worded it at the moment.
I already worded it. We're
Did you?
good. Yeah, I did.
Okay. All right. So what you want to tell us how you worded it so we can vote on that language?
So I have a resolution to allow Treasurer Mary Rogers to pay interest and principal on the bond, apply for the letter, line of credit, and to pay the building expenses to the village school. And
Okay.
I'll
And,
clean that up a little bit.
just say the 2011 bond.
Okay.
Because the older bond is gone in history, but
So how's that? Is that okay? I'll clean it up.
that's fine with me.
All right.
I don't have any particular problems with that. So, is everybody else in agreement? Because someone could move that and second it. You're moving it, Matt. I'll
did.
second it.
All right, second, yep.
Kim's seconding, get me out of the picture. So are we, there's no further discussion, so I'll call the question. Are we all in favor of this? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's all of us.
So I just have one more thing for Mary before
I'm
you.
gonna go back to
Yep.
negotiations.
Thank you.
Ray, you are now the host. and
Okay,
the
thanks.
Recording will come to me at the end of the meeting. Have
All
a good
right.
night, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
good night. Thanks
Jim.
for the report. That was very comprehensive and detailed this time. There's a lot of stuff, though.
As opposed to
Congratulations.
other times, no.
Congratulations.
Well,
on
no,
finishing
sometimes
the year,
there's
James.
less to say. You know, there's just a lot to say right now. So,
Yeah, there. All right, you
All
all
right,
have a
thank
good
you.
rest of the meeting.
yep. All right. So
Mary, the only,
your question.
Mary, the only thing I wanted to say is you were asking about bills that you should be looking for to pay.
Yes.
So there's a couple from me, but Jim had asked if I would wait till the
Oh,
end.
yes, that's right. I'm sorry about that.
So there's one there and then there'll be another one and it's not
Okay.
large amounts of money, but you
Right.
asked.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay.
We're not making you wealthy. I know
No,
that.
you're not, Ray,
No, we're not.
but I
Unfortunately.
love this job.
All right. So, and I accept Lori's amendment. She's quite correct. I just spaced out on that item. We've adopted that resolution, and I think we're all set and tidied up for the end of the month. And I don't think, other than me going to sign the warrant, I don't think we need to have a meeting. You'll all be happy about that, except Mary. Mary's still got the work to do.
Ray,
Yes.
there is no meeting in July, is that correct?
That's our predilection as a board, and I think
Okay,
that's
so
true.
then we will do what we did last year, and you will have to sign the acceptance of whatever we're approved of for the line of credit. There's
Yeah.
always a resolution that's
Yes.
required,
Yes,
and then a signature on the other loan
Right.
paperwork.
I will be the person to do that, or Matthew, or both of us.
Okay, and then we'll make sure that Tim is aware of what type of delay may occur with the
Yes.
tuition payment.
That should work fine, Mary. Like,
Yeah.
Okay,
as long as you keep
You
me informed, we
keep the
can make.
board and Tim apprised of what's going on there.
and there is no further rent payment that's coming from the village school, correct?
Not
No.
until next year.
Good,
Not till September, I believe.
correct, okay.
Okay, so I think we're to the chair's report now. And I'm going to reorder this a little bit. I'm going to, in deference to Tim's probably need to do something else than sit here and listen to us. I'll just put him first. He can briefly describe the year-end events. And is there a actual graduation in person?
That's a funny story. We have had one planned. It was planned for last Thursday, then it was planned for this Tuesday, and now it's planned for tomorrow. So that is the plan, to have an in-person graduation, and it was going to be at Park McCullough, which we were very excited about, outside, but we're going to do it outside at the school because, Park McCullough was able to work with us for a couple days, but they couldn't do it for a third option.
And what time is that?
So that's at 6:30 tomorrow evening,
And it's outside.
outside. So we're going to do it on the lawn. Yes.
And we're invited if we choose to come. Yep.
You'd have to sit. There's not going to be a place for you to sit, but you
Okay.
could be out on the lawn. Yes. Absolutely.
Bring a blanket.
Yeah. So we're providing seating for the staff and some seating for families, but we couldn't invite the public in general.
Okay.
But we're excited about that. It's been a long year. I think we're glad of our successes and all the challenges and things like that. But I think many of our teachers, our staff, who have done an incredible job, they're ready to be finished. And so I think they're looking forward to the summer ahead and to try and recoup and re-energize and just have a break from the unending schedule that it's been this year.
Okay.
Any questions that you guys have about how I can? So Jim's thoughts are pretty interesting. This is the first time I've heard about the no snow day for a remote. That's an interesting choice. We're going to go on a similar line in as far as remote learning. We're going to offer it if a family needs it for medical reasons, but right now we're inclined not to offer it just for a family that wishes to do it. It's been challenging enough this year, but to extend it for another year for some of our teachers to make that work just seems untenable at this point. So if a family needs it for medical reasons, absolutely, we will do that. But for if they just have a preference, then we really can't support that going into next year. The other piece that we're really excited about that has come from the state is at least the initial guidance for next fall is that they're going to let go of the distance requirements. So nothing about masks and anything like that, but we're not going to have to worry about, I mean, we still have barriers up in the school. We're still,
Yep.
Trying to keep the desks separated and things like that. Clearly that I think has some impact on the overall outcome of contagion, but they're certainly showing it that it's not as important as the mask wearing and things like that. And also just the questions before they come into school, the screening is really
And
the
so
best
will
way to
that
prevent it.
carry over? You won't be doing the disinfectant spraying? Or
So again, that's another thing that's been shown that's really probably not necessary.
Yep.
We are thinking though, because we also had we had such small numbers of other illnesses during the winter months when we have a lot
Yes.
of,
Right.
we're thinking about bringing it back for sort of, from Thanksgiving through February or something like that,
Yeah,
time when
for
we're all really
Right.
stuck in there, just doing it throughout the whole building because it
Mhm.
just cleaner surfaces means less
Yep.
illness overall.
Yep. It definitely does seem to be the case that lots of people experience this, fewer illnesses.
Yeah, no, I think there's without a doubt that has occurred.
Yep.
As far as recovery and things like that, I think I would echo some of what Jim said in that I think for not everybody, but for some kids, reading scores seem to remain on par with what they were doing, or a number of students did exceed sort of the regular expectations for their grade and thrived with this model that we had over the last year and a half, so to speak. But then there's kids who still struggled. I do think the numbers are going to show, I think nationally, the numbers are already showing that math really took a hit.
Yeah.
I think the distance learning last spring certainly impacted some of our students because if they're not required to do math, they don't do math. They will typically still read and families will still do that on their own. But if they're not required to do math, most kids are not doing it. And it's one of those skills that if you're not practicing it on a regular basis, you're not moving it into your long-term memory and the skills get lost. So I think for some of our kids, we'll be battling some delays in that for a while. We do have an extended year summer program for some of our students with special needs and a couple other students that we feel could use a little extra support. And we're just sort of moving them into some of the kids with special needs groupings to make that work over the summer. So we'll have a program for some of those kids this summer. But I think we're considering everything. I think we're really in a very, very good place compared to the other schools in the region, and our kids have been just joyful all year long, and we're thankful for that.
Tim, first, I want to thank you because I personally feel that that's very true. My kids have been so happy, and thank you for keeping the school open and all that you have done. It's been phenomenal. My question to you is, you said that some of the kids have continued reading above level or some have fallen back. What assessment tool are you using to say that?
So we use a couple of different tools. This year we've used a new one to us, which is called Literably, and that gives us sort of an overall literacy accounting of them, and we've done that 3 times over the course of the year. For the older kids, we also have the annual testing from the SBACs, and that's for our 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And I've been able to see some preliminary results, and we'll have those results pretty soon. They did require it this year, but it's a very interesting thing. They required it, but they're not counting it. So it's a very interesting thing that the federal and the state governments have decided in their interpretation. So they still asked everybody to take it, but they're not counting it against you as far as funding and things like that. So that was a very interesting interpretation on their part. I will say we still had some families, some of our distance families had the option to come into school and take it, but a number of them chose not to, a couple of them did. And then just because of the stress of the year and things like that, a number of families really asked that their student not have to take it. And I supported that decision for individual students. So when we look at our combined scores, we're a small group already. So if you take, 1 or 2 students out of a class, it can impact the overall average of our class. So we may see some of that, but I can certainly talk into that. In any situation, I feel comfortable with that.
And when, as individual parents, would we have access to the our own kids' SBACs? I think I've never really cared much about it. I just, I mean,
Yep.
meaning that I looked at the performance of my child,
Yep.
listening to the teacher's assessment versus putting a lot of weight on an SBAC result. But this year, I'd be just very curious to see because of all the reasons.
Yeah. So this last year we started. So the 4th grade teacher would go over the SBACs from 3rd grade with the parents in the fall. And then the 5th grade teacher would go over the ones from so we've started a practice of doing that in the fall.
Okay, great.
So they're looking at the scores from last year. They're certainly, it's months later, so they're not necessarily accurate, but to just throw the scores out there, there's a lot of numbers and they're not really always easy to interpret. So we want to at least be able to have a conversation around it, and then certainly can talk into it more in person with that process.
All right, thanks.
So you would do that with Kim in the fall?
Yeah, so Kim having students in the school would sit down in the fall with the teacher, and that would be part of that conference.
Okay. And that's general. You're not just offering it to Kim. You're offering.
Oh no, that's something that only Kim gets and no one else knows. That's something we started. Last year because we felt like we hadn't really formalized a process to do it. So we felt like that was a good way to do it. And we did not feel good about just mailing them home in the middle of the summer or something.
Right. I agree with that.
Interpretation.
There's a credible amount of time that goes into those bloody things, and you ought to make whatever you can out of it that is useful for kids and teachers.
Sure.
I'd agree with that. Anything else?
No, any other questions that folks have?
I would ask you, we are trying to plan a retreat for August.
Okay.
Which I mentioned to you.
Yep.
And I asked everybody if they have 2 ideas they could contribute that this could be about. And I guess that's really the next item on our our chair's report is retreat ideas.
Okay,
Um, I'm only doing it in this order because you're still here, and I'd be interested in what you have to say.
okay. I'll give that some thought and absolutely send
Okay.
it your way. Do you have
And
an inkling of when that might be in August?
no, we don't have a date.
Okay,
We need to do that uh, to focus the attention.
yep. No, that's
And
fine.
and I'll have to ask the rest of the board about that. And I'm not putting them on the spot right now.
No, that's fine. I
That's
hadn't seen it on
month.
any of the other documentation. so-
I know that I can't do it the first week around the first weekend in August because Sheila and I are going to go visit our son and his wife in Providence, Rhode Island. Uh, don't ask me why that happens, but complicated. But, so that's right around the 6th. But after that, though, anything would be open from my perspective. I don't know about the rest of it. So maybe the first step is to get people to send me what's available. It doesn't, I'm not talking about a weekend item exactly, whatever works out during the week sometime.
Are we
Because
talking one?
it's going to be,
one day,
it's not going to be an all day thing. It's just going to be a couple of hours.
one day, couple hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Good idea. I just, that's a hard month for everybody.
I was gonna just say that, Matthew, I'd much prefer to do an extra day in the fall or when we're back in school, because our summer is so precious and fleeting. We get like 2 months with these kids. And there's lots of, like, Ray, you're away in the beginning of the month, I'm away till the middle of the month. It just may be a complicated time. I'm certainly willing to work if that's what, to make it happen in August, if that's what the board so desires. But you're just saying throw out some opinions, and
Yep.
that's my 2 cents.
yeah, well, that is the starting point is when. And I only threw it into August because I'm usually around anyway. But I have this one weekend I'm not going to be here. So, yeah, I don't really care. I just thought it would be useful to do something where we just talk about the overall direction that we're going and what we think of it, and
Agreed.
our connection with the village school and connection with the other institutions we're connected with.
No, I think it's a great idea. I'm not saying that I think it's a great idea.
I think one thing, I'll just throw this out here. I don't think there's a lot of that, I see a lot of Shaftesbury District 1 parents sort of ooching into Shaftesbury School. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more of them continuing to go to the village school. And I'm wondering if we have any ideas about that, or if we even understand it. I mean, I know some of it's got quite reasonable reasons behind it.
Hey, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Would the retreat be warned?
Apparently we have to warn it. Yes.
Okay,
We don't have to do any business. We have to warn it. We have to allow for public comment. But we don't have to take any action.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. So unless people have ideas for this already that they would like to suggest, I'll move on. And I guess we're gonna have to look for time in September, from what I'm hearing.
Possibly. Think we can lay down some times when we know that we're here. I don't know whether I'm here or not at this point. It's gonna
Right.
be, but you're at through mid-August. There could be a late August date. School starts, does it not, actually around the
For-
20th?
For us, it's the first.
For you, it's the first. I'm committed to having such a meeting. I think it's a great idea. So we put out there what our plans are, but Kim is right. Seems like summer's already over. Hasn't even started, right?
Okay.
I would just like to say, Tim, you know, if you, with those ear things and your white shirt, you look like a doctor or a veterinarian. And in that room, you know, if there were a couple little extra props there, you could be playing that real good. Oh, that,
Okay.
yeah, there's your lab. There's your, yep. Okay. All right, that's
I
better.
was thinking you look more like a coach.
Or a coach.
Coach
You
Tim.
see a stethoscope right here? Stethoscope.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay.
Tim
Right.
is never wearing that shirt again, I'll tell you right now.
All right.
Thanks,
So
Tim. Good to see you.
we're looking for dates from the end of August through September for this retreat. And I guess I need people to send me what's available for them. And whether they have a preference about doing it, say, on a Saturday or doing it on a weekday. Okay. Enough of that. Rooftop solar, I haven't heard anything back. I've made an inquiry, but I haven't seen any information yet. So that's off the schedule. Then the last thing was, I thought we'd just review publicly the response, the letter from Grace Christian and my response to it. And if necessary, we could look at the policies, see if I don't think there's anything we can change in the policy that would help us at all in this regard. But let me read the letter from Sean Smith, who's the administrator at Grace Christian. Addressed to whom it may concern. We respectfully request that our students' families who reside in the North Bennington Graded School District be allowed to participate in the town tuitioning program for the 2020-2021 school year. This request comes in light of Vermont's Second Circuit Court. I believe that's actually a federal court, isn't it? Oh, it was Vermont's Second Circuit Court?
I think so.
Court decision February of 2021, which was attached. I do have, it's the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. So it's not a Vermont court. It's not a Vermont as in the state of Vermont court.
Right.
I thank you very much for looking into this request. I will be very happy to provide you with any additional information needed. Sincerely, Sean F. Smith. So, as you know, because I sent it to everybody, I ultimately replied a week later with a lengthier letter, which I don't know if I need to read. I will read bits of it because I said, good day, I'm replying to your email request of 5/28/2021. In regard to your request for retroactive payment of tuition, because that's what the letter seemed to be requesting for. In his email, he mentions two students. This letter actually mentions no numbers of students. Two unnamed students from the North Bennington Graded School District. There are several issues that the board will review at its June 9th meeting. I gave him the Zoom. I suggested that he attend if you wish, based on the Zoom coordinates on the agenda. on the SVSU website. I pointed out that the only parties who may apply for tuition support or a student or parents or guardians, and the steps are laid out in our residency affidavit, and which has to be filled out and attached proper documentation of that proves that the children and the family live in the district per our student residency policy. And I supplied all those items, those documents in as attachments to the email with this letter. The parents are not identified in your letter. I have not made any residency determinations for students being placed at Grace Christian Academy for the FY21 school year. Thus, I conclude that the parents of these students have not previously made an application to the district via our residency affidavit or through the SVSU application form, which is also an acceptable way of applying to North Bennington Graded School District for residency determination. A parental application would be the first step in seeking tuition payments for students in the K-6 grade range. Per our tuition payment policy, North Bennington Graded School District will not make retroactive payments for applicants. Our tuition payment policy provides payment is only made to the institution. The institution must be a public elementary school or an approved independent school meeting school quality standards per Vermont School Board decision. Documentation should be supplied of current approval and a current calendar that shows the school meets the minimum days of school requirements of the state. The district will not pay retroactively for days prior to the receipt of a request documented through a residency affidavit that is approved. If the district determines that the student is not a resident, then notice will be timely within a day after such a determination. And that notice would be that they're not resident, so we will not accept the application. This determination may be appealed to the board, our board, or beyond to the Vermont Secretary of Education. Based on these provisions of North Bennington Graded School District's policies on residency and payment of tuition, I cannot offer tuition payment to Grace Christian Academy for these unnamed students for the FY21 school year ending on June 11, 2021. As previously mentioned, I'm attaching our relevant policies and our RA for parents to fill out and supply documentation for as specified in the verification of residency policy. It is the choice of your parents, your letter mentions, to file the paperwork with the district for FY22. This may be mailed to our post office box 279 in North Bennington, Vermont, or filed via email to the email address that I use to send the letter. And optionally, documents may be filed with James Kosis at the SVSU, either by mail or email, and he will communicate with me regarding the residency affidavit and supporting documentation. Sincerely, Ray Molyneux, North Bennington Graded School District Chairperson. So if I guess I'm looking for support from the rest of the board in what I've said there.
1000%.
Since I don't see anyone here questioning us, I think this will stand just the way it is, that we will not pay for this year because we weren't asked to pay for this year. And most of this year was not under the order of the circuit court until February, that is. And that was only applicable to parents who had requested payment.
Yeah, no, there's no obligation to this year.
No.
It appears we might have such next year, or at least until there's
Yes.
further court work within the state of Vermont. Right? Is that, I think that's what's pending.
Yes, I believe there's a request to the Vermont Supreme Court to rule, to state their interpretation of the um, compelled support clause.
Yep.
And to AOE to provide some guidance about what constitutes compelled support and how but at the moment it seems that the schools that meet the school quality standards, the independent school quality standards, can certainly, their parents can certainly apply if they're in our district. And if they're residents, however we work out what the tuition is to be paid, it seems as if we are at the moment going to be required to pay. I think there needs to be some understanding about what part of that tuition is actually for uh, the religious aspects of the education. Because Grace Christian says on its website that tuition pays for all of their expenses, all of the education. So yet, of course, they have students who get scholarships. So I don't know how that works out. I don't know. It does seem to me that the taxpayers should not be compelled to support the religious side of that education equation, but it is integrated throughout the curriculum at Grace and probably at other institutions that may seek to have some tuition support from the district. I really have no theory about what it's going to be, because until the Vermont Supreme Court says something and the agency details that in some way, uh, it's an indeterminate question.
And we've heard nothing from the state board.
No, they're avoiding talking about it till the Supreme Court of the state has something to say.
Yeah, I don't have an, I really don't have any problem with the idea in principle that children and parents ought to be able to put their kids in these schools that are appropriately approved and meet all the requirements. But I will go on the record as saying that there are elements of that education that public dollars shouldn't probably be paying for. Other elements that we should be. And what I see, honestly, is a national effort by some interest groups in testing this law, and that's what they're doing, and
Yep.
and so they're taking advantage of it, and that at this point is they're right. But I don't think it's settled law yet as to how that's going to come down. And in the meantime, we do what we've got to do. It's not as simple as, well, we don't want to pay for the indoctrination of something because we do the same thing in our public schools, in a secular way. So
Well, we don't do religious indoctrination in the public schools.
no, but we do jingoism, do we not?
Yes, we do that.
Um, so I do get the argument, and I think it's important for it to go through the courts and get figured out. In the meantime, if there's a resident here who does the
Yep.
proper application process, most certainly we will work out whatever agreement, like you said, with the scholarshiping and the whatever percentage component of their curriculum that might not meet public standards. We'll figure it out.
Do we know what percentage of the student population from our district goes to Sacred Heart or Grace Christian?
It was hard to hear the first part of that, Kieran.
Do we know what percentage of our student population goes to Sacred Heart or Grace Christian?
I do not. What I heard from Jim Colkeen in a meeting I had with him and with the SU's attorney, it was about 11.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that's all Grace or that's Grace and Sacred Heart. I think it must be a combination.
So 8% maybe, 7%.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep.
Now the tuition that Grace has posted for next year is $7,700. I have no idea what Sacred Heart's tuition is. And I have no idea if there is the Seventh-day Adventist Academy up on Harwood Hill there. I don't know if they would be doing the same thing or not. Or if they had enough students to have one that comes from North Bennington district or not.
Or if they're accredited appropriately.
Yes, that as well. So. I don't see anything in our policies that we should change or would need to be changed. I think it protects us as well as we can certainly against retroactive claims.
So Ray, Sacred Heart did send out their tuition for 2021, 2022. It's on their website. $5,300 for the first child, $5,100 for the second child, $4,900 for the third child.
Uh-huh.
So
Wait, that's the one we knew, isn't it, Ray?
Sorry, what?
The number you had? Oh, what was the number you quoted?
11 students is what I was told from.
The tuition for Grace.
Oh, 7,700.
Right.
And that's for the K6 level, I believe.
yeah, this is preschool through 8.
Yeah, we saw. I
I
saw
mean, with this, if this is, if they opt to not go with like North Bennington for preschool, we want to cover that, would we?
Preschool we would cover.
We would, okay.
Well, they may not be going to Grace or I don't know if Sacred Heart even does preschool. Grace
Sacred
does have a
Sacred
preschool.
Heart does preschool.
They do.
Ray,
Okay. Yes.
the situation with the preschools there is they're not part of our partnership.
Right.
So it would be very different. So
I think Grace is, though. They claim they're a 4-star program.
well, then that's new from my last director's meeting a few weeks ago, but that's possible.
That's what it showed on the website.
Okay,
I could be wrong, but
but they might be a 4-star and not be part of the partnership.
that you're correct about that. That doesn't determine that. Yes. If they're not part of the partnership, then they're not going to be receiving public funds for that.
Well, Sacred Heart is not their pre-K is not part of the partnership, and
Yep.
they currently don't have any stars. But
Okay.
those are two different things, but
Yes.
just information.
But you
I'm
have
just
to be in
wondering
the
if it's
STARS
really
program
working.
to get public money as well as be in the partnership, I guess.
Correct, that's right.
I'm
Okay.
just wondering if this ruling, if they do go forward with it and they say we have to, partnership or not, I wonder if we'd be, on the hook for it to cover that cost as well. Even at the
Well,
pre-K
that's a
level.
different level of cost. That's the program as structured by the state is a support for 10 hours a week, and not for the whole program.
Right, it's actually 12 hours a week.
12 hours a week? Okay. They upped it this past year or something recently?
Yeah, last
This
year they
weekend,
did,
yeah,
and
okay.
then subsidy
Right, so-
amount increased as well this
Right.
year, so.
So it's a different program, and it has its own restrictions, which the state put into place. I don't see any particular issue with supporting kids in that program if they are part of the partnership locally with the SPSU, and if they have the minimum star rating from the state.
That might open up another can of worms with the, with the ruling and
Yeah, well, we would follow the rules. If there is another issue that it gets pursued by people who are pushing this public money for these institutions, and that would end up being the AOE and legislature's issue. We don't structure the program. We don't determine any of the parameters there. We just support it with local tax dollars to the extent that we pay the bill. Anything else?
negative.
Okay. I don't think we have the other that I had on my report was basically if we had all the facts for the bills that we wanted to deal with the village school, we could go through it, but I just got something new this afternoon, so I haven't looked at it. I'll send that around to the committee and see if we can't agree. I think mostly the discussion is between myself and and Kim and Matt about probably the control technologies bills. I don't know, but we'll see.
I think we're close. Just got to figure it. I looked at that this afternoon. Just got to go back through that email chain and see what.
Can you speak up a little bit more?
I think we're close on it. Like you said,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of, a little more discussion, but we've got to get to it. That's got to be part of this, of Mary's.
Right. We need to settle it with the village school before the 15th, so I can they can give me the bill to submit to Jim, or they can submit it to Jim.
Yep.
And I can say I've approved it for the committee.
Yep.
So that's, yes.
Talking about this, and maybe it would be sort of like too many cooks in the kitchen, but maybe it would be worthwhile at the retreat to have Rachel come, as she seems to be heading up the village schools maintenance and correspondence, and she might give us some clarity on issues like the questions you posed in that email, Ray.
Well, I got a response from Tim about most of
Right.
it.
Yeah. I don't know, just thinking of ways to better communicate in real time,
Well,
but it might be too much and like bog down the whole.
yeah, it's not generally an issue with communication with me or with us. It's,
Okay.
my questions are more about, you know, what's this relationship with that company? Is it
Mhm.
really helping us?
Right, right.
Why do these things, why do we pay, you know, not we, but why do they pay?
Right.
So I'm really asking questions to them. Why pay this service cost when you also they have these bills which are bigger than the service cost?
Well, but it would be asking the question of them because they are the consumer.
Yeah, it
So
is
like
good,
if they were
but it's,
coming to my house and they were
yeah,
charging me, that's what I'm saying.
yeah, right.
For
It's
those
not
service
really,
calls, I would be saying, well, why am I continuing to pay this kind of a bill?
right. That,
And that's what I just mean about the real time thing. And then maybe that could save us
right.
this batch, but I don't know.
We're the owner of the building and the equipment, actually. So we have a role there, and the role, as I see it, is, you know, I want to try to get Bill Christian to look at these bills and have his comment because he designed the system.
Mhm.
I don't, knowing Bill was very tight-fisted with money. He never thought that he would see, I don't think he thought he'd see bills like this all the time.
Mhm.
And I just find it upsetting.
Mhm.
Maybe what Kim is saying is that if they are working on equipment that we own, that
Yep.
we ought to be the ones receiving the bills. And then we are the ones to, in real time.
Oh, well, okay, that's another
Thank
question.
you, Matt. That's what I
Thank
was
you.
trying.
And then we come to the school with our, you know, with our grievance, you know, with, okay, well, we talk,
Maybe it's an untenable way of operating, is what you're saying. Is that it? We should
right. I
change
mean,
the operation,
they're,
but we don't have anybody to monitor the system. They have to monitor the system because they need it to function, to
right,
keep heat in the school.
right. Yeah, I don't know for sure how that
Yeah.
works. We're both notified, you know, if they know that a bill needs to go, a duplicate needs to be sent to us, so we're aware at the time that,
Well, we could talk about that. Yeah, that's not
so then we can go in and say, well, what was the problem
objectionable
and
point. Yeah,
what did they do? And
right.
And then if we really wanted to get involved, then the next time that they come, then one of us is there to talk and see what's happening or whatever, to understand why what is the service that's needed? Why is the cost so high? That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah, that is part of it. Yeah, it's because the technicians come from a remote location, remote to the building, and the hourly rate. Those are the two factors. And
I'm not looking to get into the middle, in between. Schools
Yeah.
need to have somebody come there and do something,
right,
but I get it that they do that. They don't necessarily, you know, think of letting us know in real time that that's happening. But if we got a bill, at least we'd go,
right.
wait, well, something happened. That's cool. And then,
Yeah, if we got a bill as it went along, you're suggesting,
yeah,
so we know what's happening. We have an idea what's going on.
yep,
Yeah, that would be helpful to me, probably.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, like better communication with
Right.
Rachel. I mean, Tim is doing a great job, and I'm not saying that. I was just looking at ways, how could we help
No, I have
ourselves?
no criticism of anybody. It's just more of an issue with, is this the best way to do this? And
Right,
why are these
exactly. Yes.
costs so out of the range I ever thought they would be in?
Right.
You know, before, when it was a public school, of course, it didn't have a modulated system. All sorts of things have changed that allow greater control over the system. But it did have a janitor who came in at whatever time it took in the morning, early in the morning, to get the boiler running and get heat to the rooms. And, you know, it was wasteful, yes, because there wasn't control over the room temperatures, and the heat was going out windows and things like that. But it was done, and instead of, rarely did you have days when you didn't have heat. As far as I know, maybe none. And
What it
so
costs more.
I'm just curious about why things can't function a little bit more smoothly with less interruption and disruption in particular classrooms. Of course, if the classroom has 2 radiators and one's on, then usually that suffices. But some classrooms, I guess most of the classrooms have 2. So there's usually not a situation where a classroom is cold. There's usually a situation where one radiator is not functioning. Sometimes, not usually, it's just occasionally this happens, but occasionally that happens that one of them is not functional, and I don't get it. So I guess I need a good explanation, one that makes me feel comfortable that we're actually doing the best we can efficiency wise.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else about that? I think Tim sent that new information to all of you, right? So we could review it. I'll put my idea out there, what we should be paying, and you guys can tell me what you think, and we'll make a decision in order to get that bill ready. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And Kieran, you can be in on it too. I mean, you might as well be a committee of the whole.
I agree. I think that, if you want to, Kieran, I don't want to put more on your
Yeah,
plate,
no,
but
you
we
don't
just
have
had
to.
it that way before because other people were doing other things. This just historically became the 3 of us when we had a bigger board to sort of like offset jobs.
I'm not going to argue and I'm not going to complain.
Okay.
Well said.
Oh, come on, join.
I'm not going to ask for more stuff. Please don't on top of myself. So.
Oh,
By all
dear.
means, don't feel bad if you're not including me.
Okay, so
It's a very elite committee. People really get on this thing. So this is your time. This is your...
well, we do a lot of work actually, but I don't know that we're elite. Anyway,
Cool.
we're dedicated. That's what we are. At any rate, so shall we adjourn this meeting?
Yes, we should.
Yes. It's going downhill quickly.
Well, yeah. No dinner, nothing to drink. Kind of headed that way from the beginning. Thank you very much.
Good
All
night,
right,
Chuck.
thank you.
Again, no meeting in July, and I will keep in touch, obviously, as I always do. Try to, anyway.
Thanks, Ray.
All
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do we have to officially adjourn or no? Is this good enough?
We're for a small board, and we are pretty loosely following rules. We don't have to have a
Adjourn.
formal resolution.
All right.
I can just say it's over.
Thank you.
All right, amen. Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
And what do I have to do?